Have you ever caught yourself missing someone who caused you more pain than happiness? Someone who lied to you, ignored you, manipulated you, maybe even broke your trust so deeply that you promised yourself you would never think about them again. And yet, weeks, months, or even years later, they're still there. Not in your life, but in your mind. You replay old conversations while driving home. You imagine different endings before falling asleep. Sometimes a random song, a familiar smell, or a place you've never avoided before suddenly pulls them back into your thoughts as if your brain had been quietly waiting for an excuse. The strange part is that you already know they weren't good for you. Logic has reached its conclusion, but your emotions seem to be following a completely different set of rules. Most people believe this happens because they're still in love. Others convince themselves they simply need closure. But what if both explanations are wrong? What if the real reason has almost nothing to do with the other person? What if the feeling you're calling love is actually your brain trying to solve a problem it was never designed to solve? Modern neuroscience suggests something deeply uncomfortable. Your brain doesn't always care about what's good for you. It cares about what's familiar. Sometimes familiarity feels safer than freedom, even when that familiarity comes wrapped in disappointment, anxiety, and emotional pain, which raises a disturbing question. If your brain can become attached to something that hurts you, how many of your feelings are actually choices? And how many are simply ancient survival mechanisms quietly running in the background, convincing you that the past is where safety lives? To answer that, we have to go back thousands of years, long before relationships looked anything like they do today. Imagine you were born thousands of years ago. There were no cities, no phones, no therapy, no social media reminding you of people you were trying to forget. There was only one thing your brain cared about: survival. Back then, being separated from your tribe could be a death sentence. Isolation meant fewer eyes watching for predators, fewer hands gathering food, and fewer chances of living long enough to pass on your genes. So evolution did something extraordinary. It built a brain that would fight to preserve attachment, even when that attachment wasn't perfect. The problem is that evolution never promised happiness. It only promised survival, and those are two very different goals. Today, your life is dramatically different from that of your ancestors, but the operating system inside your skull is remarkably similar. Your brain still treats emotional bonds as if losing them could threaten your existence. That's why walking away from a toxic relationship often feels less like making a rational decision and more like losing a part of yourself. Your conscious mind says, "This person hurt me." But deeper systems inside the brain ask a different question. Are they familiar? Because familiarity has always been interpreted as a form of safety. Not because it's healthy, but because it's predictable. And the human brain is obsessed with prediction. Every conversation, every argument, every apology, every brief moment of affection becomes part of a pattern your brain learns to anticipate. Over time, that pattern starts feeling normal, even if it's built on disappointment. This is why people sometimes leave a painful relationship only to feel an overwhelming urge to go back. Not because the relationship was fulfilling, but because uncertainty is often more frightening to the brain than suffering it already understands. However, this still doesn't explain the strangest part of the puzzle, if familiarity is the reason. Why do some people become almost impossible to forget, while others disappear from our minds with surprising ease? The answer lies in one of the most powerful reward systems ever created by evolution, and it has been quietly shaping your emotions without you even realizing it. Imagine a slot machine. You pull the lever once, nothing happens. You try again, happens. Still nothing. Then, suddenly, without warning, you win. That tiny, unpredictable reward is enough to keep millions of people pulling the lever again and again, convinced that the next attempt might be the lucky one. Surprisingly, your brain responds to certain relationships in a remarkably similar way. The most emotionally addictive relationships are rarely the ones that are consistently loving or consistently painful. They're the ones that constantly alternate between the two. One day you feel deeply valued, the next day you're ignored. Then comes an apology, a moment of affection, a promise that things will be different, just enough hope to keep you emotionally invested. Neuroscientists call this intermittent reinforcement, one of the most powerful learning mechanisms ever discovered. When rewards become unpredictable, the brain doesn't lose interest. It becomes even more focused. Instead of relaxing, your attention sharpens. Your thoughts become repetitive. Your mind starts searching for patterns, trying to predict when the next emotional reward will arrive. Ironically, the uncertainty itself becomes addictive. This is why you may find yourself checking old messages, imagining imaginary conversations, or wondering what they're doing right now, even when every logical part of you knows that reconnecting would probably end in the same disappointment. Your brain isn't chasing the person, it's chasing the possibility that this time the story will end differently. And every memory you replay is another attempt by your mind to solve an unfinished equation. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The equation was never designed to have a satisfying answer. Some relationships don't leave because they were meaningful. They stay because they remained unresolved. And the human brain has an almost unbearable intolerance for unfinished stories. But even that isn't the deepest layer, because beneath the addiction, beneath the memories, beneath the chemistry itself, there is a far more unsettling question. What if the hardest thing to let go of was never the other person, but the version of yourself that only existed when they were part of your life? At this point, it might seem like your brain is simply trapped in a chemical loop. Dopamine, memory, uncertainty. But chemistry alone can't explain why one person can occupy your thoughts for years while another fades away in a matter of weeks. To understand that, we have to look somewhere even deeper. Identity. Every meaningful relationship leaves behind more than memories. It leaves behind a version of you. Think about it. There was a version of you who laughed with them, a version who imagined a future with them, a version who believed certain dreams were still possible. When the relationship ended, that version didn't disappear overnight. It remained frozen inside your memory. So every time you think you're missing the other person, your brain may actually be searching for something else entirely, a lost identity. Psychologists describe autobiographical memory as the story we constantly tell ourselves about who we are. It's not just a collection of events, it's the framework that gives our lives continuity and meaning. When someone becomes one of the central characters in that story, removing them creates more than emotional pain. It creates a narrative gap. Your brain doesn't like gaps. It wants complete stories, clearer endings, simple explanations, but real life rarely offers any of those. Instead, it leaves unanswered questions. What if I had said something different? What if they had changed? What if we met at another time? These questions aren't signs that you're meant to go back. They're evidence that your mind is trying to rebuild a story that suddenly lost one of its main chapters. And that's why closure often feels so elusive, because no conversation, apology, or final message can restore the version of yourself that existed before everything fell apart. That person is gone. The story has already changed. The only question now is whether your brain will keep rereading the old chapters, or finally gather the courage to begin writing a new one. Because the greatest illusion isn't believing that you still need them. It's believing that your future depends on someone who only exists in your past. So, what does all of this really mean? Does it mean your feelings aren't real? Not at all. The emotions you experienced were real. The memories are real. Even the pain is real. But the story your brain tells you about that pain isn't always true. Your mind has one primary job: to protect you. And sometimes it believes the safest option is to hold on to what it already knows, even if what it knows has been hurting you all along. That's why healing rarely feels like a dramatic breakthrough. More often, it feels like quiet repetition. Every day you choose not to check their profile. Every time you stop replaying the same conversation. Every moment you resist creating another imaginary ending. You're teaching your brain something it was never forced to learn before, that unfamiliar doesn't always mean dangerous. And that letting go isn't the same as losing. Over time, your brain begins to build new predictions, new routines, new emotional associations, not because you erased the past, but because you finally gave your mind enough evidence that life continues without it. Perhaps the most liberating realization is this: you were never fighting against love. You were fighting against a brain that confused familiarity with safety, uncertainty with hope, and unfinished stories with unfinished destinies. The person who hurt you may have walked away long ago, but your brain kept carrying the weight because it believed there was still something left to solve. The truth is, not every question deserves an answer. Not every chapter deserves another page. Some stories don't end when you understand why they happened. They end when you stop asking them to become something they were never meant to be. And maybe that's the quiet freedom your brain has been searching for all along. Not the chance to go back, but the permission to finally move forward.